Hello, my name is Emmy. I wanted to come on here and tell everyone about my experience as a child growing up on the Feingold Diet and give some insight. So let's get right into it. So before I started the diet, I had behavioral issues, really bad, starting up in Head Start. Now this is according to my parents. I did interview them for this video, so this is their perspective on what happened, along with what I can remember. As well as I was a learning disabled in math and reading pretty severely. I think I was like 2 or 3 levels behind in both. And so they were going to proceed and put me in IEP, the special education services, to try to catch me up. I had behavioral issues really bad, such as not getting myself up for school very well. I wouldn't get myself dressed. I would throw a fit if I had to even brush my hair. No reason for the triggers. My mom did say that she couldn't remember any real reason for the trigger, for why I would get so angry so fast. I was never happy. I wasn't a very happy kid. I was pretty angry a lot. Bossy with my friends. Yes, this is the one that I remember very clearly. I live right in the middle of town, so my friends would just walk over to my house. My house was kind of the hangout spot. And I do remember specifically being very bossy with my friends, and I think even my friends remember that, some of my old friends, and could attest for that I was always just very bossy, and there was no reason for that because my parents didn't raise me to be a bossy child. Stomach problems. We could go on and on about this one. The stomach problems were a huge thing for me. I think I went through like 12 or 13 different specific tests with doctors, and it was always nothing's wrong with her, nothing's wrong with her, nothing's wrong with her. And I just always had such bad stomach problems. Also, when my mom was trying to get our household in general more healthy, she switched over from sugar to Splenda. So she would make like flavored water, and instead of using sugar, she would replace it with Splenda, which she at the time thought was good. People weren't, you have to kind of remember that people weren't as health conscious as they are now. This is kind of a big trend now to really get healthy and care about what's going in your food. I think people are becoming aware with the internet presence and everything like that. But at the time, I wasn't really the situation. My mom was not aware that Splenda was terrible for you, even though, you know, it's not sugar. So she put it in the flavored water, and I was drinking flavored water all day long, and I became addicted to Splenda. So that could have been contributing to my stomach problems as well. But I was actually addicted to Splenda as a child. So that is another issue that I had. According to my looks, the way I looked when I was that age, people say that I looked pale and that I had large dark circles underneath my eyes. This one isn't on the list, but I just thought of it as I'm speaking here. I do remember having a lot of nightmares. It was almost every single night that I would have a nightmare, which is not, I wouldn't say that that's very common. It was way too often than it should have been. So definitely nightmares was a big factor. So we started Feingold full-fledged when I was in the 2nd grade. My mom went out and was explaining to my aunt that I had behavioral issues, and she was a preschool teacher, and she said that one of her students also had behavioral issues, and his mother put him on just a diet of no red 40, the food coloring. And it apparently changed his attitude almost completely around. So my mom went further to research it online, and she found the Feingold Diet. And that's when she bought the book, and she got the whole family on board, and it was quite a process from what I remember. I can't imagine what she went through. And we started it, and we started it full-fledged when I was in 2nd grade. So some of the after effects of being on the diet here I'm going to list. I would say just to give you some context, that I was probably on it very strictly until I was in the 4th grade. And then as I grew up, I started to just be able to make my own decisions. The food industry was changing. People were becoming more health conscious. But I would say pretty full-fledged from 2nd grade to 4th grade. Some of the differences in my artwork, other than just me growing up and becoming a better artist, definitely just the attention to detail. I was able to really pay attention. My siblings, so I have a brother, an older brother and a sister that didn't really want to be around me because I was a terrible young child. And they both started to want to be around me more and hang out with me and have little sleepovers in my room. And I remember that. They really became closer with me. So that was great. The stomach problems were resolved. My mom couldn't believe it. For years and years, we were trying to figure out what the issue was with the stomach problems. And just like that, this diet solved it all those medical bills. This is a huge one. So this is kind of more of a personal detail, but I think it's important to dive into what I remember and what my parents remember on every aspect, because I think this will be insightful for maybe somebody out there. My parents' relationship improved. This is really big. They argued a lot about me. They both had different parenting styles that they wanted to approach my behavior. My dad was more the guy that no bullshit kind of guy. He was pretty much like, she needs to be in timeout and this isn't okay. And my mom was more the gentle, we should try positive reinforcement. And so when I was misbehaving so badly, they just couldn't agree really on what to do, and which was causing turmoil in their relationship because of me. But it really helped. It really helped them because I was more peaceful and I was a more kind child, I was more calm and collective, their relationship dramatically improved. So that was a huge plus that I think was completely unexpected on going on this diet, okay? Oh, this one's really important. By the time I was in 3rd grade, I have tested to my reading levels and to my math levels that I was supposed to be at. So I was like 2 or 3 levels way behind, and in 1 year I caught up completely to the grade level. So that was very impressive. Everyone was very impressed with that. So this takes a lot of lifestyle changes. That's kind of the next topic here on my list, is the lifestyle changes. Man, did things change in our life. It was wild. My mom had to cook a lot. She made homemade everything for me. Homemade candy, homemade corn dogs, homemade everything, because everything was so full of food additives. You know, like I said, at the time, it wasn't really a trend to get out there and have really great options and for companies to come out and be like health advocates. But there was a few companies out there. So she really just went into the kitchen, and she, every night, you know, till 9 o'clock at night, she was making food. And that was also because every lunch had to be packed for school. You will learn, if you do this, that school lunches are disastrous for your child, and it's not what you want for them. Don't even let them get the milk, okay? It's pure sugar. Just pack them all, make more dinner than you usually do, you know, make more of it so you have more leftovers, and just do it. If you don't do the school lunches, it's not going to be as beneficial. So another one was that we live in quite a small town, so we only have a few local grocery stores. When you do something like this, what is really going to help is to be at those really unique, like natural health food stores. Those are where you're going to find a lot of good things, as well as your big box stores that like we don't have here, which such as like Woodman's and stuff like that. Can't think of really any other one at the time, but my mom was really a big one for Woodman's because they had whole aisles of food that I could basically eat. So she would take trips. You know, our nearest woodman's an hour away. So she would take a whole day trip and just go and stock up the house like once a month of all the things I could eat so I could have good candy and all that. So that was a huge one. That was a huge change. My parents had to be able to, we weren't necessarily poor, but we didn't have like a lot of money where you could go and buy a month's worth of groceries in one grocery trip. And that's kind of what had to change, was that we had to drive so far to the grocery store that we had to be able to afford such large quantities of food and expensive food, because eating healthy isn't cheap, at once. So let's see here. One thing that did change was the reinforcement of behavior. My mom completely went on board, and my dad as well, with positive reinforcement as a way of making me behave. And it worked out, I would say, much better than negative reinforcement. Another important one is birthdays and holidays. So for Halloween example, what she would do is she would take all my candy and she would trade it with all the candy that I could have. So it was like a fair trade. So she got all my crappy candy full of dyes and additives and preservatives and all the crap that it's full of. And she had an offering for me, and it was a pretty sweet deal. Always, she would buy some really great candy that had, you know, good ingredients, and we would do like a trade, and that worked out great. And even my friends loved some of that candy that I got. They would be like, oh my God, can I have some of that? So some of it's really good. If you pick out the right stuff and you trial and error it, you can find some really good candy that tastes pretty close to the real stuff. Like real M&Ms, they have like ones that are very close. School snacks, that's a huge one. So like, especially when your kids are younger, they have lots of little like parties and things and little events going on in the classroom. So what my mom did, she took a box, she filled it with all of my stuff. So whenever that would happen, I got to go, and that box was kept in the classroom with my teacher, and I would get to go and pick out my snack that I got, and everyone else got something different. But this way I was able to follow the regimen, and my mom had all the bases covered for that kind of stuff. Even if you're going to birthdays are a hard one. You don't necessarily want to send your kid with a birthday cake that is Feingold friendly. But, you know, try to plan ahead for those things. Try your best to be on top of it, because you'll really notice that difference. You really will. So some repercussions. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but a repercussion of the Feingold diet is the expenses. It's expensive. It is. Like I said, you know, this was quite a while ago, but it is expensive. It was at least like 15, years ago. But things are expensive when you're trying to eat healthy. They are. So be prepared for that. My parents, like I said, we didn't have a whole lot of money, but my parents made the ends meet with it because this is what they really wanted, and they saw the results. So it was worth it to them to make that sacrifice of not going out to eat or whatever, because it was worth the results. Time consuming. Yeah, that's a huge one. I didn't experience that as the child going through this, but I noticed it, and I was aware of how time consuming it was for my mom and my dad. Mostly my mom, she was slaving away in the kitchen, always making me homemade food, always experimenting to try to satisfy a craving I had for things that I couldn't have anymore. The time and just the time you put into it, reading the book, researching, is just so crazy. Family and friends, that's a huge one. So I have two sets of grandparents, one on each side, and one set of my grandma and grandpa were very on board with this. I would go over there, get babysat by them. We were 100% on board. They saw the results, they saw the change, they loved the thing that my parents were trying to do for me, and they made it happen. They supported it. It was great. And then I had my other side of the grandparents where they just thought, this is some ridiculous fad thing. No kid should be on a diet. This isn't gonna work. This isn't anything to do with food. She's just a very terrible child, that kind of thing. And they kind of just went with that whole like older school outlook on it, where if your child's misbehaved, it's just because you have a problem child, and not really looking into other avenues. So it was a problem. It didn't necessarily start family arguments, but that to the family, if I would go over there and they were eating Twizzlers, say, my grandma would be like, here, have some. And as a young kid, it's really hard. Even when you know it's working for you, you can feel the results. Even as a second grader, it is very hard to deny a handful of Twizzlers. So, you go for it. Even friend backlash. My parents had a set of friends that just wouldn't get on board at all. And it was one of my best friend's parents, and they just didn't get along about it. And it actually started some pretty severe arguments. But luckily, you should be safe on that kind of thing now, because more people are open-minded with the internet and everything. They're understanding that our foods aren't necessarily good for us. These can be really bad things. So some misconceptions. It's not just food, it's everything. That's the problem. This is also where it becomes more expensive. It's candles, okay? You got that fragrance, it triggers something in the brain. The fragrance isn't good. Okay, so you do like essential oil candles. Maybe something like that is different, but at the time, we just had like Yankee candles at our house, and that alone can trigger problems. Finger paints. I'm just giving some examples of things that you do have to watch out for. Finger paint. Your kid's finger painting. All of those dyes will seep into your skin. So like, get creative with that. Lotions. You got fragranced Bath and Body Work lotions with dyes in them and scents that aren't real, and that also will cause toothpaste. Colorful toothpaste. Just the list can go on and on and on. Seriously. Even makeup seeping into the skin. There's just so many external factors to consider when you're doing this. I don't think the external factors will have as big of an effect as the internal factors, but if you're going to do it, just do it right. If you're going to go for it so you can drive for those results. Perspective. My perspective on the diets. This is what I would have done if I was my parents. So I wouldn't have called it a diet. Like, just looking back on it, I think that caused a lot of controversy with my grandparents, my classmates. So when people asked me why I couldn't eat what they're eating, I would have to tell them I'm on a diet. I'm on a Feingold diet. And I grew up as a skinny kid, just a skinny, healthy kid. And when people heard diet, it was like a red flag went up. And they were like, why on earth would you put your skinny, healthy little girl on a diet? I think that's a problem. I think diet is associated with losing weight. If I was to have my parents redo this, I would have told them to call it a lifestyle change. Seriously, it is. That's what it is. It should be something that you change for life, that you should be conscious about for life. And it's not a diet. It isn't for losing weight. It's for making you function at a higher level. And that should be something that you stick with forever. Okay? Just another thing that I look back on is how notable the differences was. So even as a young child, I noticed it, and there was no doubt about it that it was working. When I ate things that I wasn't supposed to, I 100% could tell the difference. Also, I was so aware of the quality of food and how much better the quality was. As a child, you wouldn't think I'd be able to really tell, but with, you know, we talked a lot about this a lot with my parents. I talked a lot, and they were explaining, you know, as I was doing this, that your quality of food is better. And, you know, they noticed the difference, and then I noticed the difference. So just wanted to add on a few things here at the end. So the first thing is that I think it's important to inform your kid that what you're doing. Don't go in this and have them do it blindly. My parents sat down with me. They made sure I was on board, because if I wasn't on board, they weren't going to be. Like, we can't do the diet if I wasn't going to try to stick to it. Let's be real. And if they got a second grader that used to eat Doritos and drink Mountain Dew, which was me, to get on it and convince me and be able to talk me through it and make me understand, I think almost any kid can be understood of it. They had to do that, because if they didn't do that, I would have went to my friend's house and I would have just ate when I want. And there was times where I did that. I cheated a lot, but there was also times where I realized, like, yeah, I can't do that. I can't eat that. And I stuck to it pretty good. So make your kid understand. Talk to them about it. Don't just throw them into it blindly and say, this is what we're going to do now, and you have to do it, and you have to eat this way. Walk them through it. Make them understand the food that they're eating and how it's affecting their body, and educate them. Because now as an adult, I understand, and I have stuck with those eating ways up until where I'm at now in life. And this is something that'll be in my family. This is how my kids will eat. And it's just the way of it's a way of teaching your kids how to eat healthier and how to care for your body. So make sure to inform them. They're not dumb. They're not dumb. Another thing I just wanted to note too is that people call it commonly the ADHD diet. I never had signs of ADHD, and I never was diagnosed with it. This diet isn't for people that just have ADHD. This is for anyone. I encourage anyone to do it because of how beneficial it was for me and my family. But I think a misconception is that it is just for kids with ADHD or even adults with ADHD. No, it's for anybody. It'll help anyone. So don't let that try to stop you from trying this. And the last thing, I just want to tell you guys where you can go to be able to find more information about this. And that would be feingold.org, okay? And I'm going to tell you guys how to spell it. FEINGOLD, one word, .org. And if I'm able to figure it out, I will put the website link in the bio so that you guys can click on it and look more into it. So if you have any questions, make sure to comment, because I am completely open about my story. I want to educate anyone that wants to go through this. I myself went through this, and I am now an adult that can speak on this, and I'm excited for you and your family. So thank you very much for watching.